I'm here just as a boy enjoying my childhood. And then I overheard my father. He was screaming and shouting on top of his voice. He was rebuking sharply Joseph and saying, "Do you mean to tell me that myself, your mother, and all your brothers, one day we shall bow before you?" And it came to me that I ended up asking Judah. I said, "Judah, do you know anything about what is going on?" Then Judah said, "No." I remember yesterday when Joseph had a dream and he told all of us, and we asked him, "Are you saying we are all going to bow down?" Because he dreamt of in the field people winning and the grass, and then all of those grass they started stood up and then they bowed in front of him. So meaning to say we are all going to bow before him. He is going to be greater than us. Now today he was telling the Father together with all of us that he dreamt that the sun and the moon and the stars were bowing down towards his own star, meaning to say he's going to be greater. That's why the Father is furious. I understood the entire explanation, but it puzzled me. Remember, the Father loved Joseph more than anyone else. It took to me to say, I know that all of you, my sons, you think my father loved me more because of what he eventually did. You all know he was refusing that I may go back with the brothers. But I know for a fact that the reason why he was refusing is because of the grief and the loss that he went through when he realized and when he thought Joseph was dead. So you think he loves me, but he loved Joseph more. And I'm here to say to you, you are my sons, and you are the strength of my body. And I want you to be the first recipients of the message I'm about to tell you today. God works in mysterious ways, and he worked through the life of Joseph to entrust and to surely show that his hand is still very strongly involved in the affairs of men and in the grace that he has released over our lives. You know, I'm going to tell you today that from the pit to Potiphar's house, to the prison, up to the palace, the Lord was working in mysterious ways in the life of my brother Joseph. Remember, we were born, the two of us, from our mother Rachel and our father Jacob. Of course, Leah had given birth to a whole lot of other boys that we can still name, from Reuben, from Judah, from Perez, all of them. But now I'm here to say to you, despite all of them and all of their existence, myself as Benjamin, I am a proud father of you, my sons, Bella, Besha, Asbesh, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Roy, Rosh, Muffin, and Hapim, and also not forgetting Arad. But I'm going to say to you, my sons, be the first recipients of the detailed explanation of the historic figurative events of what happened in our family for Joseph to rise to power, even in Egypt, the land that he did not belong. My brothers hated him because of the dreams. And then they took him and they throw him into the pit. They took his robe of many colors and then they put the God's blood on it, and then they made sure that they gave it to the father and say, your son is dead. And this was a plan which was better than the initial plan. The initial plan was to kill him, but Reuben rebuked us and said, no, we cannot have our brother's blood in our hands. Eventually we throw him into the pit, and after throwing him into the pit, I remember vividly that pit, there was no water in the pit. It was a dark pit. There was nothing. It was a place of disadvantage. But the Lord was faithful, because he also used us, the very people that set him into a position of disadvantage, to pull him up. And then we managed to sell him to the Ishmaelites. The Ishmaelites sold him to Potiphar's house. Potiphar's house, he started to work. He started to work himself up, Eventually, I remember vividly that Potiphar gave all of the authority to Joseph, my brother. And I know that at the end of the day, Potiphar thought that what was going on in his life was because of the blessing that was on the life of this Hebrew boy. But the Hebrew boy, few moments later on, we see Potiphar's wife accusing him of attempting to rape her. And this was after a series of pursuance of trying to sleep with her. And Joseph just could not do it. He could not sin against the Lord. That's what the Bible even says. I want to tell you today that no matter what, all the words that has been written in these scrolls and these scripts were true. Joseph refused to sleep with Potiphar's wife. And I want to tell you today, you also can do the same thing. You can be able to resist the devil and say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." I remember that he then was thrown in prison. And in that prison, he met two men that had angered the king, Pharaoh. And I remember these men, they were supposed to face a verdict. And I remember Joseph telling me the day that he revealed himself to us, he set me down and he narrated everything to me. He told me that these men were looking so upset. I asked them, "Why are you upset?" They said to me, "We do not know what is our verdict." I asked them, "Tell me." Then they could not tell me. They say, "No one can interpret what we have dreamt." I say, "Isn't it that God is the interpreter of dreams?" And I remember that the first one gave me his dreams and I interpreted and it was favorable. It was the cupbearer. The second one gave me his dream and then it was not favorable. It was the baker. And I remember vividly that the baker was killed 3 days later. 3 days later, then also the cupbearer was then restored to his original position. He forgot, despite the fact that my brother told him that, "Please remember me when you get to the palace." But he forgot. 2 years down the line, I remember vividly that now the king had dreams, two separate dreams. The other dream was for 7 fattened cows that came out of the river, and then the other ones that came out that were withered, they swallowed the one that was fatted, and then now the ones that was withered, they stayed withered. And then I had another similar dream, and then in interpretation, Joseph eventually came to picture. No wizard, no witch could interpret, but the cupbearer remembered Joseph and said, "A certain man interpreted a dream, and the dreams came to pass exactly according to the way he interpreted." And I want to tell you today, that's how Joseph, my brother, rose to power. Pharaoh could not trust or entrust all his estate and all of these events to anyone than the man who managed to interpret his dreams. Then all the brothers eventually, after the famine, in the second year of the famine, they went the first time. Joseph did not reveal himself, and then he demanded that when they come back the second time, they must come back with their brother. They demanded to. That's when I started hearing my name for the first time. I had to go there physically, and I was one of the people that was needed to be there for me to be of rescue to my brothers. And I want to say to you today, I wasn't sure how to feel. I asked my father, "Why are you refusing that I can go with my brothers?" But then he said, when he lost Joseph, he still has that feeling, what if he also loses me? Then we couldn't go another season without food. Eventually, he let me go with my brothers. When we went there, and then they hid the cup of Joseph, and I didn't know by that time it's Joseph. Then when eventually it was caught that the cup belonged to Joseph, then he said, "Why did you do such a wicked thing?" Then I didn't know that I had a cup in me. I was also equally surprised. But the Lord was faithful, because then Joseph managed to reveal himself to us. And that's when we knew him, and that's when we understood all that he dreamt of. Here we begin to see a symbol and a sign and a typology of Christ in the life of Joseph. Joseph forgave his brothers despite all that they had done. It is something that we can be capable of taking home, that Joseph also did not just forgive his brothers. He also did not withhold anything that was going to profit his brothers and his family, up to a point where they managed to take all of the family and they all dwelt in Goshen. And I thank God, because all of these events, I've explained them to you, all my sons. Today, I also want to share a reflection that I managed to have during the time that I was busy preparing this research and to try and figure out how then the life of Joseph can impact our lives on a theological sense. And I want to say vividly, Joseph was a truly God-sent character by God. He went through different cycles, and as I was explaining to people, I was learning. I learned that the Joseph cycles was there because at first he was dreaming, it was bliss, and then then his brothers hated him. Then another circle started. He was sent by the father, and then the brothers did not like it. And then eventually they had to throw him into the pit. And then a pit being a place of disadvantage, a place of lacking, a place of nothing. Then eventually he came out from the pit. And then when he was taken out of the pit, for him to be happy, he was sold to the Ishmaelites. Can you see the cycle? Sold to the Ishmaelites, then he was then sold to Potiphar's house. Everything is going well, everything is flourishing. Next moment, the cycle continued again. Potiphar's wife happened. Then he landed back in prison again. Then from the prison, he stayed there until now the Lord fulfilled his promise that he dreamt years ago, until his father and all the brothers eventually bowed down to Joseph. And I want to tell you today, it does not matter how much time it's going to take, but the Lord will surely fulfill everything that he has said over your life. It will not matter how big and how small, but God will fulfill every promise that he has ever made in his word. From what he promised to Abraham, and then it flowed down even to Isaac, from Isaac to Jacob, then from Jacob through Joseph, and all unto the rest of the generations of the Israelites up until the coming of our Christ and our Lord Jesus. So this was a lesson learned in the particular Orthodox of how I learned what Joseph's character was in the Word of God. Thank you.